Hello everybody, welcome to the Playtime podcast, episode 9. Sorry for the gap between this one and the last one. Things have been a bit crazy. So decided to do a podcast about the Islay Jazz Festival, which was at the end of September. So there's going to be 2 episodes dedicated to the Islay Jazz Festival. The second one is really an interview with the wonderful Scottish bass player Calum Gourlay, but we did it in Islay, sitting on the beach, well, next to the beach. And the audio quality is going to vary because sometimes I'm in the car, sometimes I'm on the beach talking to people with a lot of wind blowing, but I've tried to sort of make it as good as I can. And hopefully there's lots of interesting things here about the Islay Jazz Festival and the Scottish jazz scene and being a jazz musician and all that kind of stuff. So the first little bit is me driving in the car talking about the Islay Jazz Festival, and then I've got an interview with the wonderful Laura MacDonald, and then Coralie Usmani, who's the new head of the Islay Jazz Festival for Jazz Scotland. There's a chat with Brian Palmer, who is one of the main people to write into the Playtime podcast since we started, and he lives on Islay and he's a jazz drummer. And then finally I'm talking to Stuart Tod, who's the guy who kind of started the whole idea and has been a key member of the Islay Jazz Festival team for the whole of its 26 years. So here we go.
The start of the Islay Jazz Festival Playtime podcast. This is going to be an audio-only podcast because right now I'm sitting in my car in the dark. So the video version wouldn't look that great. And it's the Friday of Islay Jazz Festival. I've just seen the first gig, which was Helen Kay Quartet with Stephen Henderson on drums, Calum Gourlay on bass, Pete Johnston on piano, and Helen Kay on tenor saxophone. Absolutely fantastic gig. Just top class musicianship all around, and sort of understated brilliance. You know, it wasn't really in your face, but they were all brilliant, and the tunes were really wonderful, all written by Helen Kay, and it was just absolutely fantastic. There was one tune where Helena suddenly just read out a poem over this bass line, a poem by Mary Oliver. It was beautiful, a beautiful moment. But yeah, really, really top quality. And there's something about seeing Scottish musicians from that generation killing it like that makes you feel really proud of the Scottish jazz scene and the quality of musicians that are around. And there's quite a lot of them that are this good, that are really, really amazingly good. And it's not just the playing, it's the writing as well. And actually, last night I played Playtime with this wonderful young guy, Sean McGaw, who's another incredible player. It's just unbelievable how many great jazz musicians are coming out of the trees and the bushes and the caves and the rivers of Scotland. So there's something really awesome about the Islay Jazz Festival. It's been going for 25, 26 years, and they put on these gigs in. The one tonight was in the Galaxy Centre, right in the centre of the island. It's quite a big island. It's about half an hour from top to bottom driving. And there's some of the gigs are in distilleries, so like the Lagavulin Distillery and the Bunnahabhain Distillery sometimes, and Bruichladdich Hall. And the audience most of the audience come over on ferry with the musicians and stay for the weekend. And quite often they get a free nip of whiskey at the gigs. And it's just been lovely being on this sort of beautiful island with a huge sky, some incredible beaches here. I'm going to head down now to Port Ellen, where a lot of people are staying, and it's about 10 p.m. So I'm going to head down there, and I'm staying somewhere else, but I'm going to drink some non-alcohol-free Guinness and just have a bit of a hang. There's lots of lovely people there. And later in the podcast, I'm going to tell you a couple of Islay Jazz Festival stories. And I'm going to try and get some interviews with some different people and musicians and characters from the Jazz Festival while I'm here.
I've burst a blood vessel.
Oh.
Right, go.
Right, so I wanted to ask you about the The Midge gig.
The what? Oh, the midget gig.
Yeah, I want to tell us what you remember from that.
I do remember. Well, I can remember quite a lot about it that we can't say on probably on the audio. But so I remember I was 7 months really, really pregnant. I remember that we wrote a really cool piece.
Well, you wrote a piece.
Well, I wrote a piece for us, but you were really cool, and you were
I was playing boron.
You were the reason I wrote the wee piece for
the moron on the boron.
And I remember that we had luckily the first set.
So it's 14 years ago.
Yeah, man, it's a long time.
Because Niamh was in your tummy.
Yeah, in my tummy. Yeah, so it would be like a long time ago.
Yeah.
And we had the first set of a 2-set.
It was this ruined kind of castle of some Viking warlord kind of dude.
Great place.
Yeah.
And there was water.
Yeah.
Water
and
at it.
It was a beautiful day.
Yeah, it's like, what do you call that? Like an inland loch or something, like on an island. And as we finished like the last few notes of our piece, we could see like this mist descend from the water, right? Do you remember that?
Well, I thought it started before during our set.
Yeah, we were panicking.
The midges came out.
Yeah, it was horrendous. It's given me actual trauma about midges, I've got to tell you, moving forward from that day.
Really?
Yeah, because, I mean, it was like a cloud. It was crazy.
Because the thing is, what I remember was when we started the gig, it was like, this is the best gig ever happened ever, because it was so beautiful. And it was such a great idea. And then the midges came out and it became the worst
gig ever.
And it was absolutely terrifying.
It was terrifying, yeah,
and
it really was.
Did we kind of run?
We ran.
We actually ran for our lives.
With child in tummy running up the hill. Yeah,
and we left like about 100 people and these Norwegians.
Eaten alive, yeah. Oh, that was crazy.
I still think it was simultaneously the best and the worst gig I've ever done.
Yeah.
And it was quite a thing. And it was with you, Dolly.
Yeah, darling.
Yeah, darling. Well, I wanted to get that on record.
Right, good, okay.
Is there anything else you want to say?
No.
To the people out there?
No. Have you had fun in Islay this time?
I have, yeah, I've loved it, yeah.
Have you seen any midges? I have.
Not a single midge.
So last night we were talking about the midgie gig because we went to a restaurant and they had an outdoor area, and it was as the light was going down and I saw the midges, and I seemed to have some sort of trauma associated with that gig.
Right.
Because I wanted to leave. So
yeah, it's not a good feeling, is it?
No, not at all, no.
I saw Helena Kay and Calum Gourlay and Pete and Stephen on a Friday, and it's just like so good.
Yeah.
Just like these young bastards.
There's so many.
Wonderful. I mean, just the quality is so amazing.
It's great.
Really great.
And I was playing with young Rowan and Laura from the RCS. So Rowan's just graduated and he's great.
So another crop of really talented people.
So many talented people. Scotland's amazing for talented people.
It's Sean McGaw. You haven't heard of him?
No.
He's incredible. Mm-hmm. Yeah, incredible.
I have to check him out. Yeah, definitely.
Like a real improviser, like proper getting stuck in. You know.
Yeah, we're hanging on for dear life.
Well, we've got. Well, we just got trading on.
I know.
The fact that I don't know, we know the secret mysteries of the art form.
Well, that's what I do.
We don't know anything, but we pretend we do.
Yes, that's it. That's my main mantra in life. Yep.
I think there's this sort of beautiful young. They're all. I think the young players now are way better than certainly I was at that age.
Yeah, I think so too.
But there's a thing of experience and becoming yourself.
Yeah.
And which is.
See, that's the thing. I think that too, and I actually think about this quite a lot because I'm really involved with them all.
Yeah.
And I mean, their leagues, their knowledge, their actual knowledge of jazz is leagues ahead of where I was at that age. But I was gigging and out and living the jazz musician's life at that age where they're in more in an institution, most of them, So
yeah. And it was really difficult to get hold of stuff then. I think I must have seen a few seconds of Elvin Jones playing video on a TV show at once. And now there's hundreds of hours of it on YouTube.
I mean, it's absolutely amazing
what you can see.
Yeah, the resources for everything. And to teach it too. To teach it, the resources to help your teaching is unbelievable. I love it. It's great. Yeah. Much better than...
But, can he beat... We know Rhubarb and Custard are. We know the theme tune to Rhubarb and Custard. They don't know that. They have no idea what you're talking about.
They don't.
And that's our edge.
That is.
I might play the theme from Rhubarb and Custard under this, just right under this bit.
We'll write a piece based on it, right?
I did a version for Playtime. I did. It was Magic Roundabout theme going into Rhubarb and Custard.
Brilliant.
And it's
only you could do that.
And it's fucking mental. It's like Ornette Coleman wrote it. Yeah.
I was talking to Rowan about you on the ferry on the way over, and I was saying, oh my God, Tom's here. He's coming over. I can't believe it. I've not seen him for ages. I can't wait to see him. And I love Tom. And he said, isn't that guy that plays with the plastic baby?
Yeah, it is that guy.
Among a lot of other things. But
that's his main thing.
Yeah, that's my favourite memory of you.
The plastic baby.
Going through security at the airport, going to Austria.
With the baby.
With the Kids Ammonium Project.
Yeah.
And all the security guys looking through your bag.
Finding
and seeing
the
plastic toys and, really weird stuff. Yeah, that's my favourite memory.
Well, I was telling somebody the other day about, I remember when in Austria we played, and I did the thing on the balcony, and after 4 gigs the guy said, you are using the same language as Hitler. And I was dressed as Elvis, and I was going, hello my people, I am the king. And the trombonist gave me the translation, and it was Hitler. I was doing a Hitler.
Damn, not good.
I said, why did you wait 4 gigs to tell me that?
I know. Yeah. Not your fault.
I think maybe they needed a fat Scottish guy dressed as Elvis to help them process.
Yeah.
That's how I like to see it.
Mm-hmm. To represent Hitler, yeah.
So that's my 2 main things, the baby and the Hitler impersonator.
The language of Hitler. Great.
I'm happy with that.
I'm happy, yeah.
That's great.
Thanks.
So there's a limited number of restaurants on Islay, and there's there's a good Indian restaurant in Bowmore, which is right in the centre of the island. It's probably the biggest town on Islay, and I ate there on my own a little bit earlier because there's limited food later on, so you have to kind of make sure you get food in. And I came out of the restaurant across the street to go to my car and found £30 on the pavement. So, and I couldn't see it. There was nobody visible in the street. It was absolutely deserted. So I picked it up, and I've decided I'm going to try and find whoever lost it. And that's going to be a kind of sub-theme of the weekend. So our very own Brian Palmer, who's Playtime podcast regular commenter, is obviously here, and I'm going to do an interview with him, hopefully, for this podcast. He's a jazz drummer that lives on the island, and a keen cyclist. So I asked him about how, he said there's a community Facebook page, so I'm going to post a message saying I found some money somewhere in Bowmore, so if you get in touch, tell me where it would have been, how much it was, I'll give it you back. Let's see if we can track down. I'm just kind of, that thing where sometimes when you lose money you really need it, and it's a real stunner. So I'm just hoping it's not that kind of situation. And we may be able to find the person, and maybe not. And if we don't, then I'm going to keep it or do something else with it. I don't know. Anyway, I'll let you know how that goes.
So next up, I've got a 1-minute recording of this really nice free improv session that happened on a Sunday morning in Brookladic Hall. As far as I know, it's the first time there's ever been out and out free improvisation in the Islay Jazz Festival. Correct me if I'm wrong, if anyone's listening. And it was a gig advertised with Coralie Usmani, who's the head of Jazz Scotland, and Seth Bennett. Seth Bennett is another wonderful musician who's moved to Scotland, and he's based in Dundee, and he's from the north of England, I think somewhere around Leeds. And he's one of these musicians, I think we're a little bit similar, because he's really interested in playing jazz and likes Charles Mingus and Paul Motion and all these people that I like, but also he's really interested in and really good at free improvisation, and I'm really interested in that as well. So he's kind of crossing these kind of similar arc of the music to myself, and so I always enjoy meeting him and playing with him. And I did some teaching with him last summer that was really fun as well. And the session was advertised for Coralie and Seth to be playing, but other people to show up. So I just showed up with my drum kit, set it up, and joined in. So here's a little snippet of what the music was like, and then after that, I'm going to speak to Coralie Usmani about taking over the Islay Jazz Festival and that kind of stuff, and a bit about her life. Okay, here we go. So, Coralie Usmani, we're on the beach in Islay.
I'm in the hot seat.
It's really sunny and beautiful. There's a slight smell of sewage.
There is,
You're getting that?
Yeah. But I've got a cold, so
I guess that's part of life, isn't it? If it's all really beautiful, God tends to send a little smell of sewage just to balance it up.
Thing is, I can also not really smell the whiskey, so,
For a change, to change from the whiskey. So, the Islay Jazz Festival is quite a thing.
Yeah.
So, and what's it been like taking it over?
Oh, I've had to find out that it's quite a thing. Yeah, it's taken a while. This is the third
Okay.
Islay Jazz Festival I've been to,
Yeah.
been involved with. But obviously there's a lot of people that have been involved for the whole 25, 26 years. So it's quite daunting.
Right, I bet.
Yeah.
It seems to be going pretty well.
Well, I mean, when you have beautiful days like this.
Yeah.
I mean, that was what was sold to me, to be fair. Sometimes it's really beautiful and sunny. And obviously this was said on an absolutely dreek, awful, rainy, misty, cold, windy day. So I was like, yeah, right. And it's come true.
And then there's the whiskey and the island and the jazz combination's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I guess like jazz music can be quite rich. And whiskey too.
Yeah.
And rich and complex.
But there's something about, I think the other thing is that I've always felt is that there's something about the audience kind of come onto the island with the musicians, and we all go somewhere and all these musical things happen in these cool places.
Yeah.
That's quite unique.
I think so. I mean, I think there's a lot of there's a lot of freedom in that as well, because people aren't coming just for the music, so they're not coming out to the gig just because it's this one superstar or something, because there are so many superstars, like in general, you must know great musicians coming out your ears, and we all know that the standard of musicianship in this country and the world is like far more than can be featured on all the stages that are available.
Yeah.
So having a festival like this where people are coming for the vibe as much as the musicians gives a little bit of freedom to to try a couple of new things and see how that goes down, and if it goes down well, you can build on it, and if it doesn't, well, maybe don't build on it.
Yeah. Well, my next door neighbours told me, because I wasn't going to be playing here, and then my next door neighbours told, and then I got called to replace somebody, and then my next door neighbours kind of said, "Oh, we're going to the Islay Jazz Festival." Oh no, that's great. I'm playing these gigs. Do you want to come? And no, we're gonna see this gig and this gig, and they'd chosen the gigs they want to see. But we'll meet you for lunch. So we met for lunch, and it was cool. And then I played with you just now. We had a really cool free improv session. It was really great with Seth Bennett, and they showed up to that. So they ended up.
They did end up coming.
And I don't think they've
ever... the most kind of weird thing on...
one,
the bonkers thing on the programme.
And I don't think they've ever seen me play free improv before.
and it's quite it sort of reveals part of your soul, doesn't it?
Yeah. So the neighbourly, wave over the fence will be not quite the same.
Well, no, we know each other pretty well. I mean, they're really good friends, and they know that I'm a bit bonkers, so it's not like.
So now they really know.
They really know that.
Yeah.
Well, I think they know that I can put my bonkers stuff to use. It's not just totally just a waste of time. Well, it is a waste of time, but it's got something to do with it. You can do something with it. But it's a free improv. I think it's because I feel like I know you better after playing free improv with you.
Well, that's the thing with music, isn't it? That is how you kind of get to know people, and that's the funny thing is a lot of musicians are musicians because they're probably kind of pretty terrible at presenting themselves in speech or in another form.
That's the reason I did do it, because everything else was a total failure.
So I don't know. That was always my relationship with it. It's like, oh, I'm really shy, I'm really awkward, but when I play music, I can play louder than I can,
Yeah. And
thank you to the big truck going by.
What's your musical background?
So I studied. I started playing the violin and I really loved it. I think it was around about the same time I figured that my voice has you can sing like up to a certain pitch and then it just So before that I sang a lot, and then when I hit puberty I was like, oh, this voice doesn't work for me anymore.
Right.
And it was around about that time where I kind of got into the violin, and I was like, oh, well, I don't have the same kind of technical kind of problem here.
Right.
So it kind of became my, I suppose, second voice. And I went on to study classically at university, but I was always very rebellious, about the classical thing. There weren't really any other options available though to further study in Auckland.
Right. Jazz, they haven't got any choice. But
then what is jazz? I mean, like, jazz is so broad, isn't it? And
improvising musicians, because it's such a deep thing to do. You kind of have to do it. Once you get into it, you have to kind of do it, because you can't not do it.
Yeah.
That's my theory.
It's the dark side. But it's not really. It's actually it's more unusual to be playing music that's very regimented, I guess. I mean, globally.
Right.
Like improvisation's more universal than reading music, for example. Harmony's surprisingly not universal.
Yeah.
Like melody and rhythm are quite fairly universal, but harmony is very
Western European.
Very Western thing. Yeah. So in that way, it's kind of funny because you go, oh, improvisation, it's this thing that only a few people do, but globally, it's like massive.
Well, the other way of looking at it is, I don't know if you've come across communicative musicality, and it's basically everybody does it with their babies.
Oh yeah, motherese.
Yeah, and it's just babies are born little jazz musicians to improvise scat singing with their parents.
Yeah.
Every culture.
Do you have kids?
I do, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a granddad.
Oh, right.
So I'm going to have to get
you can practice.
I'm going to have to get my Goo Goo Gaga out soon.
Practice your scat motherese. I mean, it's true. Like, you can communicate so much, especially with kids. I used to joke with my kids because, like...
How many kids have you got?
I've got 2 kids.
How old are they?
They are 13 and 17.
Wow. Okay.
Nearly
Mine are
17. Yeah.
32 and 27. So, well, that's going to be a granddad, so they have to be a bit older. 13 and 17, so you're right in the thick of it.
Yeah, it's a bit mental. But anyway, when they were really little, sometimes you talk to them in English and nothing would happen. You talk to them and go, and they can't quite understand you, so they prick their ears up to try and understand you, because there's something in the, just hearing the
sound.
The tones,
yeah.
And you
Totally.
can communicate a lot like
Tone
that.
is a lot, You got to have a stern tone. Oh, we, well, Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, wow. Yeah.
See what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was much more content in that than the previous. So I think that's great. I'm gonna have to wrap it up, but I have got my. I'm gonna pitch my bicycle idea to you one more time.
Oh, I did think about that when I heard that you were coming.
Forrest Gump. No, it would have to be planned.
Yeah.
But the idea is that I cycle to Islay over a few days, trying to gather a crowd of audience members like Forrest Gump, and play a gig each night on the way.
Yeah.
And we all as a kind of growing band of cyclists.
Yeah.
That's the plan.
Yeah. Are you gonna have like a somebody to document it all?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
We'd social media it.
Yeah, you need to have your.
So I've got this cargo bike which my drums fit in.
I can't believe that. That's crazy.
You don't believe it?
It's
I've got a video I can show you. I cycle an hour into Edinburgh to do Playtime with my bike and my drums in the bike. So
That's
I could
brilliant.
do about 30 miles a day, and with the drums in.
Yeah. And how far have you cycled? Like, yeah.
What do you mean?
Like,
well,
with your drums, like apart
with
from
my
that
drums,
usual route.
I've done camping trips where I've gone quite far with tents and everything in.
Okay, so it's just a matter of swapping out the tent for drums.
The longest journey I've done with the drums is Pathhead to Edinburgh and back. Okay. So, but that's because I've never had a reason.
You can start training now.
It's not. It's electric.
Oh.
It's not. I can do it. It's not. I'm fit enough, just about. I mean, obviously, there's a window. There's only a short window before.
There's a wind and rain kind of weather kind of.
As a granddad, I'm going to decline physically very quickly. So we've only got a couple of years to do it in before. That's just a bit of a crazy idea.
I think you should do it.
But I think it.
There's some audience members that are already doing that, so they're kind of showing us up, really, aren't they? Like we're all kind of driving around in our cars, and they're like cycling to gigs, and you know, like they're really showing us up.
There's a festival in Holland that I did one time where it's a really beautiful festival, and they have all these churches. It's a bit where there's all canals and windmills. It's a really beautiful bit of Holland, and they have this festival where everyone cycles to the gig, and then the next gig is like 2 miles away, so they all cycle to the next the audience,
cool.
And they all cycle around the festival, and it's really cool. And,
I like that.
So this could be the only issue is the road is a bit mental.
It is, yeah.
So we could have some deaths.
Oh well, we can't. No, health and safety is.
Well, no, that is the only thing about it is not having them all run over by an articulated lorry. But I'll work out. Anyway, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And thank you for playing improvised music with me today.
That was fun. Yeah.
So the reason I'm on Islay is because of Atlantic Road Trip, which is a beautiful band co-led by Paul Tandro, Chad McCulloch and Miro Herak from Slovakia. Chad plays trumpet, he's from Chicago. Miro plays vibraphone, he's from Slovakia, but he lives in the Netherlands. He's lived in the Netherlands for a long time. And Paul Tandro, and this is one of those international collaborations that's been going for quite a while, and normally the drummer is the wonderful Alan Kosker, and working with these guys you can tell they really love each other. And on bass is Conor Murray, by the way, from Ireland, and they really love each other, and they've played together a lot now and done multiple tours, so it's including in the States and various other places, so it's not one of these one-off things. And I came into this situation to cover for Alan, and so I'm playing one of the tracks off their album now called Horo Hije, which is from their album One, the number one, written as a word, and Horo Haj Dolu Haj is the name of this tune, and it's got quite a tricky little 7 pattern in it, which is broken up as 3 and 2 2s rather than a more normal 4 and a 3. The version I'm playing is of course with Alan Costa playing, who's all over it, and I had to learn this fairly quickly. So it was a real pleasure playing with these guys, and they made me feel very welcome. And if you get a chance to check out their music, you can get their album on Bandcamp or check them out next time they're playing. I also got to play with Paul and Pete Johnston as part of the Paul Townsend Trio. So they're doing gigs around also with Alan. So check them out as well. Fantastic musicians.
So it's Sunday morning. Had 2 gigs last night. One down in the Lagavulin distillery with Paul Townsend's Atlantic Road Trip. I'm driving to another gig right now, and yeah, it was great. It was quite hard music, and I was covering for Alan Costa, so I had to learn the music where everybody else played it loads, and that's always a bit of kind of wanting to not let side down, and managed to get through it without any big disasters. So that was very satisfying, and it was a really very cool vibe in the room. And actually, we got a bit of a standing ovation at the end, which is always nice. Playtime, we played in the outhouse and elsewhere for 9 years and never got standing ovation. And then we told everybody that the outhouse was closing down. This was our last gig in the outhouse, and we played a gig and got a standing ovation. And it was kind of like we were going, "Oh, so you do standing ovations, but you waited 9 years." And then actually there was one about 1 or 2 gigs later. My brother did a gig with me and Mario as a trio, got a standing ovation, and that's it. 2 in nearly 11 years. So it's always a bit unpredictable, standing ovations. And then we had to pack up really quickly and drive for 35 minutes across Islay, because Isla's actually quite big from one end to the other, and then run into the Burkladdick Hall where the audience were all sitting there, set up on stage, and play another gig with no sound check, no rehearsal. And it ended up being really fun, actually, although it was quite challenging just getting used to the sound. But the human brain is an amazing thing, and it's sort of behind the scenes somehow tunes into the acoustic of a room. So what initially feels very confusing, it sort of makes sense of it. So by the end of it, it was really swinging and feeling great. And that was with Pete Johnston on Hammond organ and Paul Townsend, Dad McCulloch, and the wonderful Matt Carmichael, who I've been talking to about the fact that so many people on the podcast make the joke about what a terrible person is, because he really is such a nice person, and what a player, you know. I played him a couple of times, but last night he was really swinging hard. It was great, awesome. And then we had a bit of a hang afterwards in the hall, and I managed to get the key so that we could stay later and chill, and then just had a very nice breakfast, and I'm heading to back to the same place actually to do a free improv gig, and I managed to get onto the Islay Facebook page, so I did post something about the money, so I haven't checked it yet, so I'll update you on whether anybody has claimed the money. Alright, and I've got a couple of people to speak to, hopefully today. So speak later.
So Brian Palmer, you're one of the characters of the Playtime podcast, and your name was revealed by Mario Caribe.
Yes, I remember that. Yeah.
Quite a comedy moment. And you've been one of our best writers in us of everybody, and you're a jazz drummer who lives in Islay. So how are you enjoying the Jazz Festival this year?
Oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah,
it's great. This is my education.
Right.
This is my education because it only happens once a year. So aside from getting to play, it means I can go to gigs and find out what everybody else is doing, and possibly what I should have been doing.
And how did you end up on Islay? What's your sort of...
my wife's from here.
Okay.
She was originally from here, and we used to come back to visit relatives. And I remember thinking when I was over here, I thought I really have to get myself...
Where are you from?
Originally, we moved here from Troon. I was brought up in Prestwick, same place as Laura.
Okay.
Only she's a lot younger than me.
Yeah.
I used to come over on holiday, and I thought I really need to move over here. So. So
And you teach drums here as well?
I teach up at the high school. I do tutoring on a Wednesday afternoon, a National 5 higher and advanced higher.
Right. And is that your main...
No. I'm the editor of the local newspaper.
Are you really?
I
didn't know that.
Yeah. I used to do just layout, and over COVID, the sort of contract thing. So I ended up doing both. So I do layout and I'm also the editor.
Amazing. So you're kind of a hub of the island life.
Yeah, well, yes, you kind of, it's very difficult to avoid. I know far too much about ferries and distilleries.
And do you have you got your finger on all the gossip on the island?
Yes, up to a point. There's quite a lot of islands, and I'm sure all islands are the same. It's an incredible place for rumours.
Is it?
And I have to spend quite a lot of time, or a fair amount of time anyway, checking out
if they're true or not.
Well, some of them are quite blatantly not true, but
Yeah.
I'd look an absolute fool if I ignored it.
Fake news.
Yeah. It's quite it's like the send 3 and 4pence we're going to a dance type thing. It exaggerate. There was one earlier this year, the Ardbeg was up for sale, and then the next one they told me how much it was up for sale for, and then having found out that it was absolute codswallop. When I said to folk, no, it's not true, but that's what they would tell you anyway. So I had to get Glenmorangie to issue an official statement saying before anyone would believe it. Yeah.
And how did you get into jazz drumming then?
That's a very good question, actually. I'm not altogether sure. When I was at college, I played drums at college, but it was never jazz. But it's just a type of music that I enjoyed. But I'm not sure how well I could play it to begin. I'm not even sure how well I can play it now. But it just has more attract. There seems to be there's more interest in playing jazz drumming than there is in playing pop.
You're kind of more in the thick of it, aren't you, a wee bit, maybe?
Yeah, it's just that it's also the fact that you could probably back me up in this, that a lot of it's flying by the seat of your pants.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And bizarrely enough, I quite like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I did a little bit of classical percussion at school, and there used to be these tunes where you had to count 120 bars rest, and then play 3 bars on the timpani. And I always used to get lost in the counting, so I wouldn't play anything. So I'd go in to do a concert, get my shirt on and all that, and go in and then not play a single note and then come home. And I thought, I want to play a type of music where I start at the beginning and keep going all the way to the end.
I have to go through. I just find it's a bit more inventive. It's not even a chops thing. I mean, I had to learn rudiments, or taught myself rudiments actually, and I played I was lead drum in the Islay pipe band for about 13 years.
Were you?
But with no history of pipe band. Pipe band's different. I mean, it's all rudiments, but it's different the way they interpret them. And I wasn't necessarily aware of that.
I studied with Joe Morello in the States, and he was really into Alec Duthert.
Oh, yeah.
He'd met him on some kind of... He's a pipe band drummer. He met him on some kind of, I don't know, some drum day somewhere, and just loved the whole thing. It was really, really incidental.
But there's nowhere to hide in that. It's just all rudiments.
Yeah.
So I still play in the community pipe band, but fortunately, in most occasions, I'm the only snare drummer, so I just make it up. Right. Because I don't.
New Orleans vibe,
I don't have the time or the inclination to sit and learn drum parts.
Sure.
So I just.
Well, I mean, you can just make it up anyway. So no difference.
Well, it's just if there's 3 snare drummers, they're all supposed to play the same thing.
That's true.
So if there's a snare drummer, I play bass drum.
Right.
Gets me out of it.
Cool. And you're a cyclist as well, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you knew Nishi's... You were the person who identified Anishka's Belgian cycle top. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So is that just like a hobby?
It's kind of... well, when I moved here at first, I didn't have a car and I just cycled everywhere. And there was a guy who used to do cycle hire around at the old post office in Bowmore, and he said, I don't actually know much about bikes. Is there any chance you could... look after them mechanically and whatnot. Right. So for the early
You're not the bike repair guy as well for the island?
Not really anymore. I was for quite a while. I just don't have the time anymore. There's another guy that does it now. But I did that for years. I did bicycle. I even sold bicycles for a while.
Wow. You could be in this film where somebody comes to Islay and then they
they get interviewed by the newspaper, that's you, and then they go to the bike shop, that's you. They call a taxi, that's you. And is there anything that you don't do? With the vet also?
No, just sort of, I don't know. It's in a small place like this, it's quite common for folk to do more
you've got
than,
to just
than one
put your
thing.
hand to everything. And you're one of these people that can do everything pretty well, I guess.
I would like to think so.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it's borne out that way or not. Because I remember talking to Colin Steele about this, because every time I had like jazz gigs and whatnot, I'd be really concerned that I was going to muck up. Not so much from my point of view, but if you're playing with like Mario, Paul and whatnot, you don't want to muck up when they're there. And Colin says we're all exactly the same.
Yeah, that's true.
You know?
No, that's totally
But
true.
for some reason you talked to Kira on the way down, for some reason you figure that guys like yourself, it's a walk in the park.
No, well, I mean, like, everybody's always on the sort of edge between playing what I want to play and falling off it.
Aye.
And like,
There's something nice about that, in a way.
well, I mean, you know,
Or sometimes there is.
somebody told me that I used to get taught by this guy, Trevor Tompkins, who died last year. He's a really nice guy, a really good drummer. He said he was playing in a club when Elvin Jones was playing in the club, and every night he'd come off and was going, "Oh, that was shit." And it was incredible, you know. And he was just not happy with his playing every night. In that particular week, I'm not sure if he was like that all the time, but in that particular week, he was. And you know, there's stories about Sonny Rollins kind of hating his playing and going reinventing. So there's from on every level of ability, I think people are, you know.
Yeah, I remember
battling.
John Ray telling me about that. He had some Hungarian accordion players over or something,
Right,
and
aye.
he was really concerned about playing there, that he wouldn't do the right thing or something.
Aye. Well, when you start playing, I mean, I played quite a few gigs with Indian musicians and just got my arse totally kicked, you know. And it's like after the gig, it's like India 12, Scotland 0, and they slightly play up to it. So the rehearsals were a bit easier, and then on the gig they just ramp it all up.
Right.
So you go, what the fuck's happening? That's not what we did in rehearsal. But we've been talking about my idea for the Forrest Gump cycle to Islay. So I'm trying to recruit you. Are you thinking you might come on board?
Yeah, are you doing this for Jazz Festival time?
Well,
at some point.
I said to Coralie that she's got a window of opportunity for my physical fitness declines to the extent I can't do it. So,
what age are you?
57.
Well, I'm 67.
Fuck me, right? Okay.
So if I can still do it, you can still do it.
That's true. So, I mean, it's at the moment it's a bit of a thought experiment, but you never know. Sometimes these things come to pass, and I'm just sort of the idea is we cycle from Edinburgh. A gig happens each night. Not everybody in the gig has to cycle,
right?
But and then end up, like a Forrest Gump like crowd.
A bit filmed for a dogging.
Yeah.
Oh, in fact, interestingly enough, there's a guy, Jenny Minto, who's our local MSP. Her husband is a documentary maker for BBC
really?
Alpha.
Okay.
That I could maybe pitch it to him.
Yeah, for sure.
That would be
That's the sort of thing would make it all work. You know?
Yeah.
And we'll do that. Yeah,
I will do
that.
We'll
have a Zoom. We'll have to have a Zoom about it. And I think the other day before we started recording, you suggested a route through Arran.
Yeah, it's just it would avoid because traffic for all the push towards bikes, and much as I love cycling and whatnot, the traffic across the likes of the Rest Be Thankful and down through Inverary and whatnot. Yeah, it's not safe, you know.
And you'd cause a huge backup, and
exactly,
everybody would get mad with you.
You'd be everybody's best friend, yeah.
Cool. Well, it's really nice to have you on the podcast after all your contributions, and it's been a bit quiet recently because I've been too busy doing everything else. But it's good. This is going to be a special Islay Festival edition. Yeah. So you don't have to write into this one. Well, you could write in and say that I don't like the way you edited mine.
That Palmer guy is an absolute charlatan. Calls himself a drummer.
Well, you know, it's there's not going to be any recorded music, so it's just chat. So.
Yeah, that's right. Well, nobody will know then.
Nobody's going to know.
In that case, I'm brilliant.
Yeah. I thought you sounded great today, man.
It was quite nice. Yeah, it's quite. I find it odd though that Rowan's got he has his cymbals up quite high. I have mine down low.
Right.
I find that quite awkward.
Yeah, can you not move them? Do you know?
Well, I probably could, but since he had the gig afterwards and they were all in that area, I decided I would just put my own ones up, and I used my own cymbals, but I just left his kit the way it was.
Right.
This
is always a dilemma for the.
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's good etiquette not to rearrange the kit that you
and especially not tuning it and stuff. Sometimes people borrow your kit and they tune it. It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing, man? Because
he's got like tape on the floor tom and a moon gel on the tom. And
I don't like the moon gel.
And a blanket inside the bass drum.
Right.
I can't see the point in buying top quality drums and then killing them.
I know. The moon gel is. I'm just going to explain for the listener. It's like a little rectangle of.
It's like silicone gel.
Jelly. Yeah, it's exactly like jelly, and people stick it on the drum head to make it sound less ringy.
Yeah, the bizarre part is, and you knew this through tenor drums and pipe band, if you're close miking a kit in the studio, then the engineer might not be too happy with that ring that's coming off it. But if you're playing live and you're not mic'd up, if you take the ring off it doesn't carry. There's nothing there.
And the ring's kind of beautiful, I think.
That's
part of the it's a vibrating head in the wood.
To spend, I don't know, that was a Gretsch Catalina, but to spend several £1,000s on a drum set and then damp the shit out of it doesn't seem.
Or a lot of young drummers do it. No, a lot of drummers do it. Lots of people do it. So that's fair enough if that's their thing. But I always take them off and stick them on the bass drum shell.
I just have. My other kit on the bass drum, I put a felt strip in the top. It was just a wee bit too bangy, but other than that, it's got nothing in it.
Yeah, me too. Well, actually, no, I did have a drum kit where I was speaking to this guy John Blease that I used to teach.
I remember John.
He plays with Goldie and lots of.
I was playing with Robert Plant for a while.
He plays with lots of very famous people, and he said that he was doing this 2-drum thing with Goldie, 2 drum and bassing, and so I was doing the Great Orchestra, and we were trying to work out how to get the 2 kick drums to. And he said, try putting scrunched up newspaper in the bass drum, and it was actually a really nice idea. So you just sort of get newspaper and scrunch it up and sort of fill the bass drum with it, or at least half of it. And it just settles. It just whatever if it's in the car. You just put it down and it settles in. It's quite a nice effect.
Remember Billy Ward used to say on floor toms that were like 18 by 16, the really big ones and whatnot, was to stick cotton balls in through the air hole.
Oh, okay.
And they'd settle on top and it just took the edge off.
That's a nice idea.
Yeah. But I like the ring.
Me too.
I don't have anything inside any of my drums.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Well, listen, I'm gonna have to. That's loads. It's really nice to talk to you. It's nice to see you.
And you.
And I'll see you later. Oh no.
Yeah.
So I'm now driving back from Brooklyn Hall, and I try to describe how absolutely beautiful this view is. So the sun's shining. There's these green lush fields either side of the road. There's cows sitting in the sun, and to my right is the sea. You can see across to the mainland in the mountains, and the sun is just glistening on the sea, and the sky is just enormous. There's a few clouds, and as you look into the distance, everything gets kind of hazy and light. The colours washed out of the distant mountains, and there's beautiful beaches, sandy beaches with the waves lapping up on it. It's absolutely beautiful. And I just played with Seth Bennett and Coralie Usmani a free improv session, and actually about 40 people showed up, and we played improv for an hour. It was absolutely great. It was wonderful, and it went through a whole load of different stages. So it's a bit like meditation or chanting, but you just get completely gripped and absorbed in it, and it's almost like a spiritual thing, and your mind totally travels. Especially when it's good, and I think it was good today. I really enjoyed it, and I played improv with Seth before a bit, not very much, so I knew that he was really good. But I hadn't played with Coralie before, and she's great. It was great. It was really great. A violin and a double bass with bows. There's lots of interesting low stuff going on. So, as is the tendency in Islay, I'm now driving for half an hour back to the other end of the island to talk to Calum Gourlay, the wonderful bass player. He's from Fife, but he now lives in London. And then I'm going to come back again to try and see Laura MacDonald's gig, and she's working with a really interesting young Scottish jazz singer. Laura, I can't remember her second name, so I'll look that up before. And with a young Scottish jazz singer, Laura, I'm going to insert a name here, and a young drummer, Brian Anderson, that I've never heard before. So I'm basically checking them out and seeing Laura play. And then after that, I've got one more gig tonight, 9:30, back in the hall I've just been in. So there's a lot of flying around, but it's such a beautiful place. It's actually just a complete pleasure to it's a complete pleasure to be here, and has that sort of island. There's something about islands in Scotland where you just feel like the hustle bustle of the world or somewhere else, and it's just more peaceful and more just cut off in a good way. I'm just passing a place called Islay House, and one of the things about Islay Jazz Festival is it's been going for 25, 26 years, and there's a lot of stories from different festivals. So I was meant to be doing a duo gig with Tommy Smith on the very first Islay Jazz Festival, and it was our very first gig as a duo, and we were playing in Islay House, and this is my memory of what happened. Tommy remembers it slightly differently, but I was driving to get the ferry in my Volvo. I had this big blue Volvo Estate, and as we were going through Glasgow on the Great Western Road, a hose burst and the car overheated, we were on time at that point, but and I managed to find, I think I had an early smartphone, so I managed to find I had this Sony kind of smartphone thing that you could write on it with a little stylus, and it had a very rudimentary internet thing. So there was a Volvo dealership, but kind of about a quarter of a mile away. So I kind of ran there and got the hose. I took the broken hose off and got the same hose, and then ran back, fitted the hose, and we had to buy some water to fill up the coolant, and it was set off again. We'd lost about, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes, but we could still theoretically make it. And then driving up past Loch Lomond, the new hose that I fitted, I hadn't quite tightened up the Jubilee clip, and so it kind of came off, and all the coolant came out, the car overheated again, and we were on this bit of the road along Loch Lomond, there was quite a steep back down to the loch, so Jean and my wife had to climb down this bank several times, filling up a litre Coke bottle with water to fill up the coolant again, and this took another 20 minutes, and tighten up the Jubilee clip, and we got back on the road, and we just missed the ferry. It was gutting, and so I arrived at the gig an hour and a half late, and so Tommy was just finishing a solo gig, and I sort of poked my head in the door. It was in this place called Islay House, which is kind of like a posh big house, old house, and I actually had the hose in my hands, the broken one, and I showed it to Tommy going, my car broke down, this hose burst, and he was looking at me like Larry David, and you could tell that he thought I'd slept in. I thought he thought I'd been smoking opium and drinking absinthe and stuff like that. But anyway, he said to the audience, should we get Tom to set up his drums and we'll do another set? And they all said yes. And so I quickly set up my drums and we played for about half an hour, 20 minutes, half an hour, something like that. And it was kind of cool. It turns out that was the very first, I'd sort of forgotten this, but it was the very first Islay Jazz Festival. And then a few years later, I played in Islay Jazz again with, and I had my son Sam with me, who was about 4. And my wife wasn't there, so I had to do a gig. Well, one of the great things about the old Islay Jazz Festival was that everybody stayed in the same place. All the musicians stayed in the same place, called the Macri Hotel. And they had these chalets, so people could bring kids. It was really easy to bring your kids and families. So it was always a great highlight of the year for musicians with families, because you could go to the festival with your partner and kids. They could all have a great time, and you could do the gigs. And then there was a really great, because everybody was in the same place, there was always this really great late night hanging sessions in the Macri Hotel, and all the musicians used to sort of have a great crack and drink whiskey. And then sometimes there was a piano there, so sometimes there was jamming and things like that. And sadly, that hotel got bought and made it to a really sort of high-end, exclusive place. So it no longer is usable by the Jazz Festival. So now people are staying in 7 different places around the island, so it's not quite the same late social. The gigs are all the same, so the gigs are wonderful, but there is that layer of bringing the family and everybody being in the same place isn't there, which the people that knew it kind of mourn, because it was so special just to be able to bring your family and stuff like that. So anyway, my son Sam was at this gig, and one of my best friends, Steve, was with me, so he was kind of going to be looking after Sam during the gig, and I was a bit worried Sam might run onto the stage, and so at that point he was very impressed by the idea of policemen. So I went up to a random guy in the audience and said, I'm going to ask if there's a policeman here, do you mind saying yes? It's to stop my son coming on stage during the gig. So at the start of the gig, Sam was visible to the audience because he was going to offer the side to Steve. And I said, my son, he was such a cute wee guy. I said, my son Sam's here, and I've told him that there's going to be a policeman here, and if he comes on stage, he'll get arrested. And he was like looking really bright-eyed at the audience, trying to see the policeman. I think he was expecting the policeman to be in a policeman's uniform. And so I said, is there a policeman here? And his voice went, yes. And you could see his eyes widen. Anyway, he was good as gold during the gig. He just sat there and took it all in on Steve's knee and was just really, really, really well behaved. And then after the gig, Stuart Tod, who's a guy on Ireland that has organised the festival for many years, was just saying a few words and thanking people. So he thanked Nod Knowles from Scottish Arts Council, who was there, and he said, and at that point Sam was kind of a character of the gig, so everybody sort of seen him and heard about him, and he was sitting on Steve's shoulders while this sort of speeches were being made, and Stuart Tod said, you know, we need to thank the Arts Council because they do come in for a certain amount of flack, and as soon as he said the word flack, quick as a flash, Sam just went, Flak! With this huge grin on his face. And I think he thought it was a rude word or something. So, it's just the way he said it, so incredibly fast. And the look on his face, the whole place collapsed in hysterics. It was absolutely hilarious. And then it was just a sort of release of some kind of tension. And he was absolutely delighted, and that made it even funnier. So he was like, he was beaming after he made this whole room of adults collapse in hysterics. And afterwards I said, why did you say Flak? He went, I don't know. Anyway, that was one of my best Islay Jazz Festival memories, and it was also a really great gig. Actually, it was just a beautiful gig, and I think that can happen here. There's this real special feeling of being in a particular place at a particular moment in time, and there's something about that really contributes to improvisers and audience feeling at one, and this sort of special magical feeling. And when that happens with improvised music, the magical things happen with music. So it's very, very cool. Last night I played 2 gigs with Paul Candro's Atlantic Road Trip, and it was like that. It was a really, really special gig. And Chad McCulloch, who's a tour player from America, said to the audience, I just feel so happy to be in this room with these musicians and you. It's where I want to be. And he captured that feeling of we are here right now, we're being really in the present, and I think that's when improvised music is at its best. Anyway, so I'm going to speak to Calum Gourlay later on, and I'm planning to go and see Laura MacDonald's gig and speak to her too. So I'm with Stuart Tod, who is the president of Islay. Is that correct?
Only 5 days a week, yeah.
And I was counting the story of my 4-year-old son in Islay House, and you said the Arts Council get a lot of flack, and my son went Flak. Do you remember that?
Only ish, yeah. It is true that the Arts Council get a lot of flack. It's now Creative Scotland.
Yes.
They get even more flack. And topically for right now, in a couple of months' time, they're going to be deciding how to allocate the millions and millions of pounds that they get from the government and the lottery. Some of it might even be going into jazz music.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
You've been involved right from the beginning.
Yeah, me and Fiona kind of invented it. Yeah. Do you want to know the story? The story's good. Yeah. Right. 1997, as the leader of the local promoter, Islay Arts Association, I phoned.
Let's go over here. Those noisy jazz musicians are going to.
Yeah. I phoned a lady called Fiona Alexander, who was one of the directors of an outfit called Assembly Direct, latterly Jazz Scotland, and I said, I'm the leader of a little arts promotion group on Islay. We bring theatre and classical music and comedians and blah, 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 blah. We've only ever put on one jazz gig on the island, but we did get 55 people in.
Wow.
Which out of a population of 3,100 was pretty good. So we're going to do it again. Some of us jazz fans, but we're not that expert on the Scottish scene. Can you recommend 2 bands? To which Fiona said, well, why don't you have a festival?
Good for her.
So we did. There are a couple of wrinkles. That is a true story. The couple of wrinkles involved it was a year and a half getting the sponsorship and everything together.
And the drummer of Mr. Ferry on the first festival.
I was about to come to that. Yes, indeed. But anyway, a year and a half or so later, Fiona and her then co-director, Roger Spence, still around, wonderful man, who, if I can go off on a tangent, the two of them between them have probably done more for Scottish jazz than anyone else in the nation. They got sponsorship from the Black Bottle whiskey brand, which at that time was owned by a company called Edrington, who were also owners of other bigger brands like Famous Grouse and one or two others, and they sponsored for the first 6 or 7 years, and that was very successful. Then, sorry, I don't want to be too boring, but then the brand changed hands from their ownership to another company whose name I can't remember.
Not Diageo?
No, not Diageo. A few things happened. That sponsorship lapsed after several very successful years. The festival carried on under Black Bottle sponsorship under its new parentage and was very successful for a few years. That then ran out, and at that point...
Wow, so there's lots of tops and
at that point,
Fiona...
contacted several other international whiskey corporations. The the task got easier then because there was 12 or 15 years of proven history.
Yes.
So Diageo, who are the world's, not just Britain's, the world's largest booze company, came on board, sponsored for a couple of years, then renewed, and that's how it's been now for, I think, 10 or 12 years now.
And your role has stayed the same, or changed? How?
Stayed a little bit the same. Islay Arts is the junior partner.
Yeah.
Jazz Scotland as the biggest jazz promoter in the UK, not just in Scotland. Jazz Scotland have the expertise and the artist contacts. They know if they want a good drummer who lives just outside Edinburgh. They look around and probably can't find one.
Rides a bike.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. But if that fails, then they'll find another better drummer from somewhere else.
There's lots better.
But basically, at a certain point in the year, Jazz Scotland and myself have a chat, and it's pretty well established now what the network of venues is going to be.
And what is it do you think makes it such a great festival?
Well,
what's the kind of secret ingredient, apart from obviously yourself and your genius?
Of course. Well, the top of the list, and this is, I suppose, stating though, top of the list is the high quality artistry.
Yes.
Fiona and I did a count last year, and there have been 300. At that point, there had been 381. Sorry, make that 481 concerts, jazz concerts on Ireland.
Wow.
Of those, and this is just purely personal, subjective judgment, there were only 2 that I thought weren't, 10 out of 10s.
Oh my God, it wasn't one of mine.
No. So artistic quality, the variety of the acts putting forward the artistic quality, and one that I absolutely can't prove or give any evidence for, Tom, but which might the biggest injection I've put into, apart from getting the ball rolling with Fiona, the biggest injection that I've put in that I think makes it successful is the multiple characterful venues.
Yeah. No, the venues are definitely...
Yeah, the first Islay Jazz Black Bottle Islay Jazz Festival in '99 could well have been centred on one village hall, Bowmore Village Hall, centre of the island, geographically important, with 2 or 3 pubs. And there would be maybe 2 or 3 gigs on the Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night in this big hall, and then there'd be a few pub sessions afterwards. That would have been fine. My take was that there probably might not be a second jazz festival on that basis, because people might not want to come here for that sort of the slight limitations of that. So I put forward at least a dozen other
I think me and Tommy played in Islay House.
Yes, indeed, Islay House.
Yeah.
If you like,
that was a great venue.
Private house, massive country manor type house, big. But
there's something about it being an island and the audience coming here, and there's something magical about this sort of everyone ending up in this interesting venue on an island, away from your normal place, and then improvised music, which is so much about the moment.
Yes.
It's really magical, and I think it's a great thing.
As it happens, there's they've run out actually. Jazz Scotland have brought some audience survey sheets.
Okay.
And it'd be intriguing to see what they feed back at, and whether any of the questions on there are going to solicit a response to how important are the hard to get to characterful meaning faults can be found with them. This is one of only 2 with a stage, and there are some where you have to queue outside in the rain to get in before doors.
I think it's good when people have to go a bit the extra mile to get somewhere, because it makes it feel special when you get there. I think that's a not intangible thing.
Yeah.
So
yes.
Well, anyway, congratulations, Stuart.
Right, thank you, Tom.
You've done a wonderful thing.
Thank you.
And long may it continue.
Right, good.
Yeah.
And now I've got to get back to the important business. In parallel with the Islay Jazz Festival, there's the Islay Chair Festival. Where myself and 5 or 6... No, we move the things around.
From venue to venue.
From venue to venue. Really, again, that's part of the, open quotes, character of the festival. That's the imperfections of the venues. There's no single venue where you can just tip up and do
There's
a gig.
enough chairs.
Yeah, and as an example of how true that is, the Edinburgh Jazz and Blues Festival, which Fiona Alexander, the co-founder of this one, runs, that has at peak 140 concerts. But most of those, she and colleagues book a theatre. And there's no work. You just go in and do the gig.
But I think the thing about jazz is that a lot of the best places to play around the country are kind of run by these teams of volunteers and communities. And I love it when you go somewhere and there's at least, and then you stay in someone's house and these guys. You're a great example of it. You know your area, so you choose these great venues and you make them work.
Yes.
You know, and you must have to do huge amounts of stuff, but
including, I mean, a little detail, sort of talking about the range of venues. Not just to do with the jazz festival. I did a count a couple of years ago. Someone at Napier University was doing a survey about arts performances in the islands, and the promoter organisation that I'm leader of here, we have in our 30 years of existence used 49 venues on Islay.
Wow!
Some of them are a private house. One or two of them were a field. There was an ancient ruin.
There are loads
and loads of them.
We were talking about that when the midges came out.
Yes, oh God, that was Laura was at that. You were that.
I was playing with Laura, yeah.
Yes, of course
it was simultaneously the best and the worst gig I've ever done. Which is quite something.
But those 40, that's 40. I mean, the idea of 49 venues on an island. I mean, I know the figure. There are about 1,700 properties on Islay. That's from the census, mostly individual houses. Yeah. So the idea that you can corral together 49.
Still got another 1,000 to go.
Yeah.
I wouldn't put it past you doing them all.
Yeah, but and most of them have worked. Midges, notwithstanding. Yeah.
Great.
That was that one was particularly memorable, wasn't it? Yeah.
Well, it was really memorable and terrifying.
Yes.
Because they were in the it was swarming.
Yes.
It was like something out of a Hollywood sci-fi horror film.
Yes. Rob Adams, who was then the lead reviewer for the Herald, he was at that, and he did review the that day's Midgie Festival. There was something actually called the Midge Festival.
Was there?
Yeah. Some people. I must be careful what I say because it would be slanderous. There were some people who specialised in putting together arts projects that were going to get some grant aid, and they would happen and. Maybe there'd be some spare. Please, I should be asking to delete this. Maybe they'd run it not at a deficit. Let's put it that way. And then next year there might be a bubble blowing festival or a skylark festival. But, there are some chances on the fringes of the art scene.
Well, we'll talk about that when the recording stopped.
Okay, right, yes, and the cameras are off. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you very much.
Right,
Stuart.
Thank you, Tom. I hope that was vaguely articulate.
It was great. No, that's great.
Good. And I shall be seeing you later when you're...
So I'm in my hotel room and it's Sunday night and we're heading back on the ferry tomorrow. We've had a great weekend. I've really loved it. And I've got 2 likes on my Facebook post on the Islay community Facebook page about the money that I found. Nobody replied and nobody commented and nobody claimed the money. So my guess is it was one of the incomers, like one of the people coming into a tourist or a jazz festival listener. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep the offer of returning the money open to listeners of the podcast because I know you're a canny bunch and I have mentioned too much information about it to now ask questions, but I don't know, if somebody makes a plausible case, I'm willing to look at it, and you might have to make the case live on the podcast. So we didn't find the owner of the £30. If there is anybody out there who likes the idea of the Forrest Gump cycle ride across Scotland, stopping to play a gig each night, you could just join, near the end of the trip, so you only have to do the last journey. And we're planning, according to our cycling safety consultant Brian Palmer, we're planning to do a route via Arran in the Arran ferry and then across to Islay from that route. If anybody actually thinks I'd love to do that, be part of the Tom Bancroft Islay Jazz Festival Forrest Gump Fantasy Cycle Tour, yeah, right in, and then could build a compelling momentum towards actually making this dream come to fruition. You could also, I guess, come on a scooter or motorbike or one of these mobility scooter things, or indeed a car as a support team, and let's make this happen, people. There's going to be another episode of the Islay Jazz Festival Special Edition coming up pretty soon, because there was a really lovely interview with Calum Gourlay that I felt made the episode too long, so we're going to make it a separate episode, and that'll be coming out pretty soon. So thanks a lot for listening. Thanks to everybody that got interviewed. Thanks to Jazz Scotland and the people at Islay for putting on a wonderful festival. Thanks for Paul Tandro, Chad Miro and Connor for welcoming me into the Atlantic road trip band, and that's why I was there and had a fine time, and for all the musicians that made it such a good festival. And thanks for listening, and see you next time.